Hi, welcome to the Paper Snob. This is Tara. We are here for another Scraplift Crafternoon, and this week we are scrap lifting my life on paper. I will put her picture up here in the corner of her layout, as well as the link to her social media down below my video in the description box. Please make sure you check out the collaborative playlist that will also be below, and let's get started. So, you guys see me scrapbook a lot of my daughters. I don't know that I've scrap lifted very many photos of my sons. I have 3 boys, 2 girls. They're all technically adults now. The baby just turned 18 this past December, and she is a senior in high school. I am still currently homeschooling her, but back to this layout. So I chose my Cocoa Vanilla No Limits and Legendary collections. I did not have very much of the Legendary collection. I do have all of the No Limits collection, and I've just been kind of cutting into it here and there. This particular layout was chosen by Kristen, and I believe she chose it because it looks like a layout that you can use scraps on. And I have some scraps already going from these 2 collections in this bag. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of the mixed media that my life on paper had on her background, and then I'm going to allow it to dry, and then I'll cut back in and start building my layout. Okay, so I did choose this background piece for my background, and I want to play with some white spray. I love this Dylusions ink spray white linen, and I actually just bought another bottle because I was getting a little bit scared that my bottle was half empty. And so I'm going to do my mixed media in white, maybe if it's a spray or it's not. Well, it must be clogged. Anyway, I'm going to be doing my mixed media on this layout with a dark background because I love the way that looks, and I feel like we don't do it enough. I'm not going to dilute this background this white a whole lot here. I'm going to try to put it on here with the ink smooshing technique in whole. I'm already going to get ink all over me because there's a hole in my packaging. And that's okay, because I'm just going to do this. And my fingers are going to be white. But I love the way white ink looks on dark backgrounds. It's just a really fun effect. It always catches my eye when I see it on Pinterest or anywhere else on the internet, and all the different places that I look at people's creations. And so I just really wanted to play with it here like this. Now, because I didn't dilute it, I'm not getting as much of the smearing as I normally would, and that's okay because that's what I was going for. I'm also going to go ahead and do some ink splattering. And I forgot my wooden dowel that I like to use this with, so I'm going to use my glue because, you know, I don't want to break away from the video just yet. Splattering is one of my favorite ways to add mixed media to my page. Sometimes just a little bit of splattering really sets the tone and can bring out some of the elements of your page. And so I really like to do this. It's very easy. It's not quite as messy, although I get splatters everywhere. I'll have to clean up my space in between drying and stuff, but this is what my background's going to look like. I like how that turned out so far. Yes, I left the border strip down here on the bottom. I will cut it off before I create the page, but I just wanted to get this much of the layout started so that it can dry, and I'll be back. My background has now dried, and I have decided I'm going to go ahead and distress all the things for this layout. This is a photo of my son being a goofball while he was deployed. This was his very first deployment with the Marine Corps, and I'm not real sure the complete story behind the cigar, but he was just being goofy and I thought the picture was hilarious, so I'm going to scrapbook it. So I'm just going to distress the edges on this, and I'm going to mat it on that light blue cardstock. That is part of the A5 paper pad from the No Limits collection. I just pulled that out instead of cutting it into a full-sized sheet, and I'm going to mat it, and then I'm going to distress that as well. So I have already chosen some things that I know that I want to have on this layout and set them off to the side. I am trying to get to my scraps here so that I can begin layering behind my photo. I have an orange scrap that I'm going to use, that green and white diagonal stripe that I'm going to use, and then I'm also going to pull in that piece of paper that comes in at the beginning of a collection that has an example of all of the papers in a collection. I'm going to use that on this layout as well. I don't do that very often, and so I thought I'd go ahead and trim it down and I would use it. Now, the original layout also had a frame on it, and I didn't want to cut out a frame out of the pattern paper because I still have quite a few full sheets in my collection, so I'm trying to use up scraps and bits and pieces on this. So I'm going to bring in circle frames instead of a square frame in that upper right hand corner, but you'll see that as we get going. So I don't know if you also noticed that I have that little gray tray full of stars. Those are fussy cut from one of the No Limits pattern papers. I did that last weekend and kind of just had them set aside, and I've been pulling from that tray off and on all week as I've been using this collection on various layouts as embellishments. I like having the fussy cutting done up front, and so I just sat and did an entire sheet while watching Criminal Minds on my computer. Because I have chosen a dark background for this layout, I'm wanting to make sure that I pull in a lot of color in this layout, and that is kind of why I chose to use this product paper in here rather than just layering up more pattern papers. There's a lot of color going on here, and I like that because I feel like it really makes that photo pop against the dark background. Because this paper is super thin and glossy, I really struggled using the distress tool. At one point I had considered just pulling out my nail file and using that because I keep a couple of nail files on my desktop for distressing as well, and I'll use those in place of the Tim Holtz distress tool. But I stuck with it and I got it done. It's not as nicely distressed as I would have liked, but it's still got some fuzzy edges, and that was the look I was going for. I'm going to go ahead and start layering the pattern papers and the photo down so that I have my base done. I'm not gluing anything down just yet because I'm going to be moving things around, and I want to give myself room to kind of play with the different embellishments that I've pulled aside. Now I have 3 circles, 2 die cut circles, and 1 chipboard piece that I'm going to be using in place of the single cut open frame that she has layered underneath her photo in the original layout. I'll pop that up here again for you just a second so that you can see what I'm talking about. But here I'm just going to start playing with all of the ephemera and the little bits and pieces that I have chosen to put on this layout, including my title. The original layout had some really cute embellishment clusters, and so I'm going to be pulling some of these fussy cut stars from my tray, and I'm going to just lay them here and there so that I can get an idea of where I want things to lay on my page. I'm just kind of making some decisions and not gluing anything down. Nothing's permanent yet, but I just want to get some things down so that I know where things are going to end up on my layout. So as I'm playing around with the stars, I'm kind of marinating in my head about those 3 circles in that upper right hand corner. I'm thinking that they're just not drawing the eye across the page like I would like, and while I let that thought marinate in my head, I go ahead and create my journaling spot. The original layout didn't have a place set aside for journaling unless she intends to write on her background. Now, I don't want to write directly on my background. I do have a white pen, but I find that it skips. Even though I've got a really good white pen, it still skips quite a bit, and I just don't typically journal with a white pen. So I would like to make sure that I have a place to tell the story behind this photo, and I just use one of the pocket cards from the cut apart sheet on this layout to make sure that I had a place for journaling. So here's where I decided, nope, those circles are not drawing the eye like I intended, so I'm going to bring in a couple of more circles, giving myself a total of 5 circles on the layout. They're going to go diagonally from top right to lower bottom, and that'll help draw your eye across the page somewhat. I will be using foam adhesive to pop up a lot of the elements on my layout. I like to use what's left over from my foam dots as foam adhesive. It works really well, and I don't feel so badly about having this big chunk of foam thrown away. I believe I got the idea to use that from Janet over at RTS Scrapbooking. She has lots of great savvy ideas, and so I stole it. It's not an original idea at all, but it does work. And sometimes if I have an entire sheet of leftover from the foam dots, I can actually use it to pop up an entire photo. So I forgot to put my scissors on my desk, and I'm wanting to get these phrase stickers up on my foam tape, and so I'm just going to go ahead and line them up on the foam tape and set it aside and grab my scissors. So while I was grabbing my scissors, I went ahead and I adhered the larger pieces of this layout down onto the background. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do some distressing of some various bits and pieces. And I'm going to start doing some gluing and getting everything down on there the way that I want it. So I'm really making sure that all of the elements on my page are going to stay glued down by using my quick dry glue. I used it even on the chipboard piece because I find that the chipboard adhesive with time dries out and doesn't stay adhered to your page, and I've opened up albums and have found bits and pieces of chipboard at the bottom of a page protector. So I have just taken to adding liquid glue to all of my chipboard pieces just to make sure that they stay. I'm really proud of myself for using this Young Buck die cut piece because when I first opened that package of ephemera, I was like, well, what am I going to do with this? Nobody in my house hunts. I don't have hunting pictures, but I think it's just really awesome that I managed to make it fit here on this layout, and it kind of looks fun. I really like mixing fonts for titles. I think it gives a lot of visual style to a layout, and so here I've used one of the die cut ephemera words and some of the chipboard from the chipboard sheet as part of my title. Another fun thing you can do with this particular collection's die cut words is you can stitch through those, and I've done that on one of my layouts recently. I'll share a little piece of it up here for you. I want to get these little tiny fussy cut stars glued down now that I've placed them on the layout where I think I want them to end up. It's time to get them adhered so that I don't lose them. And I want to make sure that I get that last phrase glued down as well. I did use some foam adhesive on some of the stars, and some of them I glued flat. I'm also going to go ahead and bring in these enamel shapes. I use mostly the dots and what look to be planets. I did bring in one star from the sheet, but I mostly stuck with a dot since I had plenty of stars already on the layout. I also am going to bring in some splatters at the end. I love adding splatters at the end. I know that I'd added them at the beginning too, but I want to make sure that I get them on some of the colored pieces in my layout as well. So I'm going to cover up the photo, and I'm going to use my Delusions white linen spray and add the splatters. I want to thank you for stopping by my channel today. I know that you have lots of places on the internet that you can go for inspiration, and I really appreciate you stopping by my channel and checking me out. If you are not a subscriber, I would love to have you subscribe. If you liked my video, click the like button. Make sure you also check the description box below my video to see the collaborative playlist, because my friends are uber talented and you will learn lots of stuff from each and every one of us as we play along each week. Have a great Sunday. Bye.